Good evening. My name is Kurt Berkins. I'm the Assistant Executive Director for Corporate Partnerships with the ABCA. Since 1945, the ABCA has been bringing great coaching minds together to educate, mentor, guide, and support the greatest game in the world. We're excited that you joined us. Our webinar tonight is brought to you by ABCA corporate partner and convention exhibitor HitTrax. Just a quick reminder, a copy of tonight's webinar will be uploaded to the ABCA video library tomorrow via abca.org. We also want these webinars to be interactive, so feel free to post any comments or questions in the chat box, and we'll be sure to respond to them throughout the webinar. HitTrax is a market leader in baseball analytics, enhanced training, and athlete engagement, and has been a proud partner of the ABCA for 10 years. A four-time winner of Best of Show from Collegiate Baseball, HitTrax was recognized last year for the release of their biomechanics feature, which leverages their in-system video capture capability matched with batted ball metrics. As a lead up to our annual convention in Dallas, today's webinar will provide an overview of this feature, along with many others that have established HitTrax as a must-have for training academies and academic programs. You'll also hear how professional athlete Kolten Wong utilizes HitTrax and video analysis to gain insights on his performance. There will also be an exclusive new product announcement, so be sure to stick around to the end. At this time, I'd like to introduce Andrew Berry, Sales Manager at HitTrax, to get things rolling. Andrew, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Kurt. I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody getting together to join today. As you can see, the topic today that we're discussing is Major League Insights into Data-Driven Video Analysis. So today we are lucky to be joined with Kolten Wong. Kolten, I appreciate you hopping on and taking some time to get together today.
Of course. Thanks for having me on. I'm excited to chop it up a little bit.
I am too. We've chatted a little bit here, getting ready for this. But I want to make sure we get a little highlight for you here. You have been in the big leagues for 11 years, going on 12, career 256 hitter. And we talked about that. That's 256 in the 2010s and 2020s, right? Which is different than if you're a 256 hitter in the 90s and 2000s. Am I right?
Hey, I tell you what, man, I didn't come up hitting this 100-mile-an-hour fastball. I had to learn this in the big league. So, hey, I'll take that 256 and take it to the bank.
all day. 330 OBP, 720 OPS. And then, we also talked about you're at the point now where you're approaching some milestones, right? So you're approaching 1,000 hits, maybe 500 ribbies, coming up on 100 home runs, right? So you're kind of now at milestone territory, trying to cement some of those levels here.
For sure. Just trying to continue to play, continue to chase the dream that we all had since we were little kids, and it's funny when you play long enough, you tend to run into some cool things. And that's definitely one of them right now that I'm excited about is, just trying to see how much longer I can keep doing this. I have my kids now and, everything. So, obviously priorities have changed, but, I still want to compete. I still want to go out there and battle. And, I'm excited to add the analytics side to that a lot more.
I love it. Yeah, I can tell you're enjoying yourself there with the background there in Hawaii. I love it. And as you kind of just mentioned, that is a perfect introduction to where I want to start here. So you have, grown up playing the game. You've kind of come into the game at the big league level and seen the progression and transition with analytics, right? And training and video analysis and all this technology. Can you talk to me, just started off a little bit with kind of where you started in your introduction to data integration and to HitTrax in general at the big league level?
Yeah, I think, obviously I made it to the big leagues in 2013 and kind of, been here since then. So I've seen a lot of transitions. I think I kind of saw the transition strictly from, I think the first year or two was, we were still able to take guys out second base, like that was kind of the thing. You're able to take out catchers, so I was able to see that. And then now transitioning into, the analytical side and all these things that they're bringing, to the table. It's been a crazy transition through baseball. I got to live in the big leagues through it all, and it's been one of those things that has really, for me growing up, I never was a guy that knew what analytics was. You just kind of played the game and you competed and you grinded and did certain things, so I never really struggled, to play it very much either. It was always kind of, I knew I could hit pretty good, but, you tend to get to your peaks and find different valleys that you got to go through in the big leagues, really showed me that a lot. And I think within this last year, man, was the biggest thing for me. Really just kind of hitting rock bottom in Seattle, not really having the year that I had. And usually you kind of go through these ups and downs, and you tend to figure out ways to, push through or battle through. And one game usually, like, that's kind of the saying, that I need that one game, and I'm back. And it was one of those times where I didn't get that one game, and struggled to the point where I got DFA'd. And but during my struggles in Seattle, I started picking up a little more HitTrax and analytics, and how I could bring that to my swing, how I could use that to my advantage. I was seeing all these young guys coming up, and the transition was pretty easy for them. You're looking at these Bobby Witts and the young guys that are just coming up and demolishing the game, and you're like, how are these guys doing it so well? For me, the step was to the big leagues. Everyone would say, like, high school to college is big, high school to pros is big, and then when you get to the big leagues and you start to realize, that it's a different fastball up here. That was the biggest thing. So definitely, I think hitting rock bottom and then picking up my analytics in Seattle, kind of getting that thing going, learning a little bit from Seattle, them teaching me HitTrax and what's important to look at, what is the things that I'm trying to focus on. And then from there, I ended up signing with LA.
Yep.
Played with LA, got a chance to really work with them on a lot of my analytics. We were basically able to kind of break down when I had my good seasons, when I had my tough seasons, see my swing, and then start understanding, okay, when I was having my good season, what was my exit velo? What was my, consistent launch angle that was giving me success? And all these things kind of came together, and I started realizing, like, okay, that's how you use analytics. That's how I can use it towards my swing. And, so I think, to go back to your question, it's just been a slow transition, but an exciting one for me, because now I'm at that point where I want to take this to another level. That's why I've been working with you, and excited to see where we go.
Yeah, I love it. And then so now that next step is, setting up your HitTrax next weekend or next week and getting to work in the cages out there.
I tell you what, man, I might sleep at that cage.
I don't doubt it. Well, I love that progression of it, because you talk about kind of the introduction to analytics, which it's late in your career and you're getting introduced to this and you're wondering, all right, first off, you kind of start, you're like, I don't need this stuff. And then you're like, all right, what is this? Let's take a look at this. It sounds like maybe that relationship happened a little bit more in Seattle. And then you get the chance to work with other coaches and other organizations. And maybe in LA, you got a different perspective too, that helped you and say, let's look at it from this perspective and think about these components, and maybe there's something there that triggers. I mean, you did finish, you were there for a month, but you batted 300 in LA, and there's some sort of transition there that obviously helped out too. So it's interesting to see that progression flow. So, and I have, just as far as what brings us here, I think data-driven video analysis. I'd love to just talk about the topic in general real quick, because when you used HitTrax at Seattle, for example, I know they have some nice big TV set up there, right? You can see everything displayed, and you get, they are big on having the video combined with the data replaying automatically, which we'll show here in a second. But what is data-driven video analysis? I think if we look at this as two different pieces, as the data and the video, right? If you have just data, right? You're just getting data and information. That's only telling half the story, right? As a hitter, you don't know what is producing this information. So maybe you have a spray chart that shows you hitting the ball 95 miles an hour, left center field gap, right center field gap, at 15 to 20 degrees, which is great. But as a hitter, you need to know what was producing, those results so that you can replicate it. I think you talked about that in Seattle a lot, is you were able to kind of feel a particular movement or see a particular movement on a velocity that maybe was 4 or 5 miles an hour above previous ones. Is that right? Did you have kind of that feeling in the cage with the coaches?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, that was kind of the biggest thing that I took from it, honestly, was the ability to take your perfect swing and then stop, go back, check it out on video, break it down. Okay, this is what I was doing. This is the difference that I was doing. I was holding my stretch a little longer. I was doing this. Okay, let's go back and let's try and do it again. And you take your second swing and, okay, it's a bad swing. All right, so let's see what was the difference. Okay, maybe I tried to hold my stretch a little too long, and that caused everything to kind of fall out of whack. So it wasn't as much swings I needed to take. It was more about trying to continue to swing the perfect swing every single time. And with all the analytics and the video replay and all that stuff, it was able to give you feedback right away, which is something that we all try to do. You always hear you got to make your adjustments within at bat to bat, right? That's kind of the biggest thing. It's like, yeah, the faster you make an adjustments, the better player you're going to be. Of course. How are we going to do that? Like that was my biggest question. I would be like, hey, coach, how am I going to do that? I want to make the adjustment. Trust me, I want to make the adjustment pitch to pitch, but when I'm in there, how am I going to do that? So I think the biggest thing that HitTrax gives you is it allows you to step back and get in the cage, break it down to a point where literally I can take 10 swings, and in that 10 swings, I'm going to take the 3 that I have, and I'm going to try and mimic those as much as I can. And if my next session, if I can hit 5 out of 10, that's 5 out of 10 balls that I smash. If I can take that to the game, I'm saying what's up to Shohei, That's the thing. It's like now it's making training precise. You're putting people in position to have the perfect swing, not every time, but maybe 2, 3, 4 more times than they would have had in a natural batting practice, which is huge, and I think that's where these young kids are understanding the biggest thing is like, okay, I know analytics so well from such a young age that I can take this with me throughout my whole career. And I know how to change my swing. I know how to correct my swing from 12, 13, 15 years old. I can carry this now to the big leagues. Like where I'm learning this now, these kids are able to learn that from such a young age. And it's crazy to see it.
You do see 10, 11-year-olds that they know their numbers now, to be honest. Like it's, and they compete with themselves to try and, outdo themselves in different aspects. It really has been exciting to see that.
It's hilarious. And I'll have some kids be like, hey, what's your exit velo? And I'm like, hey, relax, bro. Relax. Don't be coming at me like that.
Well, and the other part of this too is like the data it's all very specific to each different player. It's not going to be a one size fits all here. So which I'll show that in a second. But the second part of this is, video review. Video has become such a huge piece in training nowadays. And I do really think it also helps kids at a young level have started doing this a lot. And the visualization of that is huge. But at the same time, if you have video and you don't have the resulting information, you're missing, what did that swing produce? We don't know what happened after contact. And I put our point of impact report, our point of contact report on the right side there. So you can see contact, right? That is the impact point where people are hitting the baseball. But if we don't have the story of what the swing produced, how do we really know that that's something that we want to replicate? And if I show you on the next slide, we'll go over and see, we've got a little swing here from you. I think you said, maybe see if this goes through. We'll see if we can play that. You say you might have remembered this at bat right here.
That I do. That was my second year in Seattle, in Milwaukee. I think it was an 0-2 slider from Diego Castillo. Nice little spring training homer to keep the confidence up.
And you can see your kind of weight shift and hold back, hands get out in front. You can tell that's an off-speed pitch right there. So which I love. And also I think we can tell if we watch the end of this video, the bat pops. That's a home run. I think we're looking at that. We know that's probably a dinger, right?
Yeah. When you stand up on the ball, you got it.
Did you bat flip after that one?
No, not in spring training. I just put it down, put my head down, and just keep running. Save the bat flips for big moments.
Well, so on this swing, it's maybe not the best example because we can tell by your reaction post contact that that's a homer. In a cage swing, with videos in the cage, we probably do not know the result based on the batter's feedback right there. So my point here is number one, we don't know what the swing produced or occurred. But there's a second point here that this for you was a home run. It looks like probably this was like a 30-degree launch angle, a pretty high hit baseball. That may not be the type of swing that you're trying to replicate each time, even though that's a home run, because you're not a guy that's going to try to put 30, 40 balls in the seats every year. So is there a component there where when you're looking at specific videos, are you trying to replicate, just the farthest hit ball that you hit or the hardest hit ball or the cleanest hit? Like what do you look for in that aspect?
For me, it's a cleanest hit ball. Like I want something in the 20 degree range, give or take. And, and anything over 100 miles an hour. For me, I'm a line drive hitter. I'm a guy that I want to be spraying the gaps and, using my power that way and getting on base for the guys, in front of me and behind me, and that's the biggest thing. So for me, like you said, just understanding, what is the most important thing you're chasing. And like for me, when I'm doing my HitTrax, it's always chasing the 20, to 30-ish. I don't really want to be at 30 in the cage, because I figure that's, if I do it in the game, good. But in the cage, that's going to equivalent to pop up in the game. I'm not Aaron Judge. I can't hit balls, really high, and they're going to go far. So, just understanding what makes me successful and how to replicate it has been the biggest thing for me, for sure.
I love it. As we look at let me click through past this. So this is the mode that you probably are used to seeing, right?
Yeah.
You're familiar with this page. So
I love that.
yeah, that's a pretty good position there. This is our colleague Dom at our headquarters in Boston. I don't think he knows we're going to be analyzing his swing, but we are. So sorry, Dom. It's a good swing though, 88 miles an hour here. So this is the mode. I mean, we call this, this is the auto replay mode, and where you swing and it will instantly play back the video. That's what I talked about in Seattle with the big TVs. I know they have TVs really everywhere that you go with this, but that sticks out in particular. This is where we're bringing all of this together, right? We have the video and we also have the data, key data points on the right side there. You see the exit velocity, the launch angle, the distance, and the result there at the bottom as well. On the right side of the screen, you still have the ball flight, and below that, you have the spray chart, and you'll see there you can actually toggle to pull up the strike zone or the point of impact report. So I just want to click through and show here, as soon as there's a line drive that's hit, and you'll see the hit start to replay on video, and it will loop. Okay, so you see Dom swing, and that video is going to keep looping until he takes another swing. So here's his second swing. Not as great. That was a 68 mile an hour hit, but that's displaying on the screen right away. So he may be looking at these videos for one reason or another. Whether it's this 88 mile an hour one that he's trying to replicate, or the 65 mile an hour hit that he's trying to make an adjustment on. When you were using this mode, wherever you were, I guess, let me ask, was this your preferred way to use the system? Did you enjoy this mode here where it kind of marries the data and the video together?
Absolutely. That was a big one for me. And then I'd also use the strike zone recognition, kind of making sure I was swinging at balls, because as a hitter that's not a super power hitter, you think you can hit everything. So for me, the biggest thing when I'm taking BP is making sure that I'm swinging at balls that are basically middle, so that I understand where I'm trying to gauge. And this thing was able to do that. And then on top of that, your contact recognition of being able to understand where I'm hitting the baseball, was a big one. But for the most part, it was all this. Like I was more worried about the exit velo and the launch angle than I was about, how far I was hitting it. So basically.
So that's interesting, because what I've seen is, as you go up in baseball through the levels, high school, college, minors, MLB, the emphasis on the strike zone and swing decision, it just exponentially becomes more and more important. Maybe you can talk to that a little bit. Is that something that you're actively thinking about when you're in the cage every time? Because I wish I could pull it up right here, but yeah, you're right. In the bottom right corner is where you would hit that grid and pull the strike zone up. Is that something that you're always thinking about? Does it live in the background? What's your interaction with the strike zone in the cage?
So basically during BP, I'm very focused on swinging the strikes. When you get to the big leagues, everybody's ball is basically moving at the cut of the dirt. It looks like a fastball every single time, and then once it gets the cut of the dirt, you got to decipher if it's a curveball, cutter, slider, all of that stuff. So the more that you can understand the strike zone, the more you can constantly build that into your brain. It's going to help you eventually, lay off those tough pitches. Those, I don't want to say the other word, but those tough pitches that are, around the corner that can go either way. Because in the big leagues, you're going to get your strikeouts here and there, but you don't want to start chasing that pitch that's around the corner, around the black, So it's always big on doing that, because you're going to obviously do it in the game. When you get in the game, it's all about attacking and competing, so you want to go and compete. But if you can constantly build that frame of mind constantly every single day, okay, I only want to swing at strikes right here. I only want to swing at this, and then you keep shrinking that zone. So when you get in the game, your zone is from here. Now it's maybe here, instead of how it usually is, you're swinging at the whole square. And that's a big thing for me, just understanding that. And then for me, it also was, seeing, okay, my exit velos, I would use the exit velo, for instance, and then I would look at where I made contact, and that was a big indicator for me. Okay, look, my best exit velos when I was making contact kind of a little deeper. So I should maybe allow the ball to get deep. Maybe that's where I'm creating most of my power, is a further back approach, different things like that you can play with. And, during the season, 162 games, you're constantly like searching for different things. So, it's always fun to have, the different tools that HitTrax offers to be able to kind of bounce different ideas off of.
Well, and that's interesting. Yeah, I mean, you made that point for me. The point of impact report is so beneficial. I'd love to pull it up right now again, but if you remember from the previous slide, showing where contact is made, I found, I mean, I'll be honest, I played like adult rec ball up until a couple years ago, but I still use the system to work, and I would see myself like, I'm in the cage, and all of a sudden I'm flaring balls to right field or whatever, and I can look up and see that maybe I'm making contact too deep, like over the top of home plate.
Yep.
Or as soon as I start rolling over, I'm making contact too far out in front. So that relationship, and actually then seeing a video of, okay, here's contact way too far out in front, and you can see your hands start to turn over at that point. That's what kind of brought it together for me visually. I don't know if you had the same experience with that.
Absolutely. For me, it was just like that sense of realizing, like, man, I can let it travel more. As a hitter, like building that trust to think like, man, I'm telling myself I can let a 100-mile-an-hour fastball come a little deeper. Like that's the kind of stuff that you battle with as a player, because you tend to like, it doesn't make any sense. But then you realize like, yeah, if I do let it get deeper, then that's in my sweet zone. I'm not trying to go out there and hit this 100-mile-an-hour. I'm letting it come to me, and I'm hitting it where I feel like I should be hitting it. And I think that's kind of, the biggest thing that I got from it was just understanding that, man, I can use this to build trust in my swing. I can use this to build trust in my depth and how far I want these pitches to go. For instance, I try to work on like hitting the ball to left field a lot. And I tend to realize that I hit balls a lot further out in front than I want to, because when I let it get deeper, my exit velo is a lot better. My launch angle is a lot cleaner. I usually spin the ball better. And it's like, it's just, I think like I said, it just gives you that extra person to be like, hey, look, this is working, bro. Well, trust it, like let it get deep, feel bad about it, let it feel weird, trust it, and eventually it's going to come in and you're going to see the results. So
no, I love it. That's exactly the point of this entire discussion, is you are literally taking these pieces, velo, launch angle, strike zone, point of impact, and you're marrying that data with the visual of the swing in order to train yourself in the cage in real time, right? Like this is happening in the moment. And I think that's such an important part here, is that so much of the learning and the player progression happens in the cage. And you can do post-session review, which we will talk about, but getting that immediate feedback is what's so vitally important. And that's why I wanted to highlight this page on the software. Again, this is the auto replay page. We've had this for a couple of years now, but I'll set up for people every week, and I'll show them this, and they'll be blown away that it exists there. So again, you see these videos displaying immediately on the screen. I was doing one install for a team at their spring training complex, and there just happened to be somebody there hitting with a coach while I set up. They were testing the system out, and you would see something happen. Coach and the player would take a look at the TV, have a 30-second discussion about a particular movement, and go right back into hitting. And that's what I kind of just saw as the most beneficial thing for the players. And I could see how you, with your experience in Seattle and going through to LA, hopefully was able to have that same kind of interaction with it.
for sure, I feel like it kind of just came down to like, you have your personalized routine made, like, okay, what is going to work for me? Like, what are the cues that I got to look at? It's not like, okay, I'm going to do top hand, bottom hand, I'm going to do all these weird drills. Like, no, like, let's do what I got to do to put myself in a position to be good every single day. I think that's what the HitTrax has done. It's kind of taken out the middleman of, I got to make sure my bottom hand is good. I mean, you can still do that. That's totally fine. Like I still do that. But at the end of the day, your training is so much more informed and so much more direct of the results that you're chasing than, me doing all these other drills, hoping that it comes together and meshes and then makes my swing perfect. And that's the biggest thing that I think a lot of people are going to learn from this, is like, this is it's going to build in, a hitting routine for every single hitter. It's going to be different. Everybody's going to have to do different things, but the results are going to be what we're chasing, you know. And I think that's the coolest thing, you know. It's like, because before I used to drive myself nuts being like, man, there's got to be a perfect swing for me. There's got to be a perfect swing for me. Like, you know, like you look, I'm playing against Mike Trout. I'm playing against, you know, I'm playing with Julio, like all these amazing players. And I'm like, okay, what is my swing? You know, what am I doing? Like, I'm training as hard as them. I'm still doing my drills like them. But then you watch them and they have like their own drills. They have like their own mindset of how they hit. And it's like, that's what HitTrax is giving me. It's like, okay, now I know what I got to do. I don't need to go and worry about what these guys are trying to make them successful. I just got to follow what this is telling me to make me successful. And that's it. Because at the end of the day, I can only control what I can control. I can't try and be Mike Trout. I can't try and be Julio. I can only be Kolten Wong. And, you know, I'm just going to try and see how good I can make myself be.
Yep. Yeah, you said it earlier. You also said you're not Aaron Judge. You're not trying to put up 40, 50 home runs in a year. And every player has a different target range for velo, launch angle, all this stuff. You know, I love to hear that perspective. You know, I really wanted to highlight the real-time interaction in the cage, because I really think that's where all this comes together. Do you, when we are talking about video and data review, are you doing a lot of post-session review, or in the past, have you done any review of whether it's same session or potentially, maybe, I think you referenced this earlier, looking back at video or results at a time where you were succeeding, maybe a season you batted, you know, 280, 285 compared to, you know, what you had last season. Are you doing side-by-side comparisons? Are you comparing data at any point for any reason there?
Yeah, I love doing side by side comparisons. Like if I have a good game, you know, or a good swing that I feel like was probably my A swing, like I'll take that and then I'll just basically compare that to my cage sessions. You know, like I'll have that and I'll take a swing and then I'll try and compare them video to video and then see, you know, okay, what was I doing in this swing that felt so good? And then just keep chasing that, you know, and you keep working and you keep building it in. Obviously, your swings are going to change every single swing, but the closer we can get them together, that's all we're trying to do.
And when you do that, I mean, you have access to a lot of game information at the big
Yeah.
league level, right? You are getting a lot of game data, which is golden, right? That's golden.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're looking and you're reviewing the videos that we talked about, are you given context for those videos? Are you supplied saying, all right, look, this is, you know, this here is during this season, whatever it is, that the 2015 season, the result of this hit is line drive, et cetera. Like, are you given that context?
Yeah, you are in the beginning, but it's like you got to kind of go through, look at your bat, and it says on your bat, you got to click it, and then a video pops up. So it doesn't really like give you like context like with the video, you know. So it's almost like I'm searching through, click on it, and then a video pops up after that.
Understood. Understood. Well, I think for a lot of the coaches here that have joined, it's good to hear that you do side-by-side comparison. I'll show you the next spot here. I showed you this yesterday, Colton. I know
Yeah,
you're excited to see this feature.
yeah, I was.
So this is where we actually do have, you know, we've had this forever as well, side-by-side analysis. The video on the left here coincides with the data at the top on the right, and then the data on the bottom coincides with the video on the right. So what we can look at on these two swings is we can objectively see that the swing on the left was hit 3 miles an hour slower than the swing on the right. Okay, but we can also see that the swing on the left was hit at a 23-degree launch angle, and the swing on the right was hit at a 12-degree launch angle. At these velocities, 83 and 86 miles an hour, if you're hitting a ball at 23 degrees, you see the distance there is 280 feet. It's very likely that that's going to be a fly out. That actually, it says it on the right side there. It says F8, fly ball to center field. You know, if you're hitting the ball 90 to 95 miles an hour at 23 degrees, that's probably a little bit better of an efficient launch angle. But then if we look at 86 at 12, that's a nice solid line drive, 194 feet. And we see the resulting play. That's a single to left field. And if we play this through, you can see the side-by-side synced up swings going. They can run through, you can replay, or you can scrub through this. I think which they do at some point here. They'll actually stop and start scrubbing the video with some illustration tools at the bottom. So is there something similar to this that you've done before? It's kind of what you're talking about, putting a couple of swings side by side and looking at these in sync?
Yeah, but not to this extent. You know, like obviously seeing what this has, it's pretty incredible. I think we used to all kind of use a different one where you'd have one phone and like one iPad kind of thing, you know. So I mean, obviously, I think what this is doing is incredible. The fact that you can draw on it too and break down literally like swing after swing is huge, man. I think if any coaches are skeptical, you need to realize how big of a tool this is. I think as a player too, you look at it and you realize like, man, I can really start taking advantage. And now like let's start chasing perfection every single swing. And you can break down, I mean, back to back, it's crazy. Like it's the transitions are so fast, the changes are gonna be so fast. It's pretty cool.
Well, that's interesting to hear that you haven't seen this. I think it's kind of become commonplace for us. We maybe take it for granted a little bit, but that's interesting to see that you haven't really done super slow-mo side by side synced up like that before.
No, like I said, I'm the new guy to analytics. This is like my first year really jumping into this. So, man, I've been learning a lot, and not really breaking it down to the point of this, but this is huge. I'm excited. Obviously, just being able to, like I said, because usually you get your one good swing, and your second one's a tough one. You're like, oh man, like I wish I would have had that first one back. And now you're like, okay, let's see why. And it's like that's gonna be crazy, man. So then it's gonna be like, okay, the change will be, your change is 2 swings or 1 swing instead of 5, 6, 8. Like some of us, we go crazy and break bats. Like you have that one good swing and then you lose it the rest of your training series, and you're like, what the hell, man? I knew it was there. And like now it's like, okay.
Well, so speaking of bats, I was going to save this for the end, but actually somebody had a good question just since you mentioned that. And I didn't notice this myself, but you can tell us if there's validity here or not. But somebody said they noticed that you picked up the puck knob bat with the Dodgers.
Mm-hmm.
Did you end up switching bats or switching knobs in LA?
So I got that bat fitted for me when I was with Seattle. They came down in January and fitted me for that bat in Seattle, and that was my first year trying it. I didn't really know what to do with it. I used it all through spring training, and I honestly I struggled the whole year with it until I got to LA. I think it was a lot to do with swings changes, but yeah, I was basically using that almost the whole year. I was going between that and an axe bat, basically. Axe bat I was using the past 2 years in Milwaukee, and obviously seeing Goldschmidt, Arenado, and all these guys making that transition to the knob, you got to try and see what it's about, and Seattle told me they could offer me, to get fitted. And I was like, oh, absolutely. I would love that. I want to try and get better. I want to try and figure out how to get my swings, my exit velo better. So yeah, I definitely made that transition, and I'm starting to like it. It's a different feel, but yeah, definitely I'm using it for sure.
You're still using that this off season right now, as of now?
Yeah.
They don't do the puck knob with the axe bat knob.
So I heard they were supposedly about to start doing that. So I'm waiting for that to happen. That's my next move. I want to go to that.
Interesting. And I didn't realize, so you had that all year. You had that at Seattle too.
I was bouncing between that and axe handle for a little while, and then when I was really struggling, I went to JP Crawford's bat. You start searching at that point when things are just going downhill.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I want to take from the transition from review and side by side and post session review. I think just collectively, it's important to understand overall, you really need both sides of the equation here, right? You need the video, you want to see what's happening, and you want the output. You need to see what is this swing producing, and what does the data mean for that hitter in particular? What does that production mean for you? Like you said, not what does that mean for Mike Trout or Julio Rodriguez or whoever else it is, right? What we've done now, just seeing how important this video component is and the marrying of the data and video, and how popular that automatic replay function has been, especially at the big league level as we go, up and up, is announce a new product here, a new mode, a new function, which is called HitTrax Viewpoint. I teased this to you a little bit, Kolten, but this is something that we've been working on a long time. I think we first teased it last year around the time of the ABCA. And what you'll see in Dallas, if you come to the convention, Kurt at the end will give you our booth number. But if you come through, what you're going to see is up to 4 iOS camera devices connected at one time. These can be wirelessly connected And you can do 1, you can do 2, you can do 3, or you could do 4. These videos are all going to be able to record simultaneously. So the key here is now you're actually going to be able to do the same thing that we were showing earlier, but with multiple angles, maybe from the side view like we saw before, or from a vertical or a back view. Did you, and like to that point, Kolten, did you ever, do you toy with different video angles? Do you go straight side by side, or do you ever move that thing around or get a different perspective?
If I did, it was cell phone, like just to kind of see different things. I mean, the fact that you're talking about 4 different angles, and you showed me a little bit of this yesterday. It's crazy, man. I think I don't want to steal your thunder. I'm excited to talk about it too, but just like the things you can do, man, with 4 different cameras and 4 different angles, the different feels that you can find, the different, you know, like for me, like holding my back hip, like being able to have a camera on my back hip, make sure I'm making that move. I mean, it's game changing again. It's crazy, man. So yeah, I don't want to keep
Yeah.
going.
No, 100%. Yeah, it's I think it's going to be huge because there are certain things that you miss, or like for maybe for I don't know, this is probably not something that you struggle with, but something that a lot of younger players struggle with is, from uh is their hands going from load to contact, they may cast outward rather than staying tight inside the ball. That's one of the biggest things I do now is I get so long and I get so outside and I end up jamming myself rather than staying tight. And it's hard to get that from the side perspective. So if you get a behind view or you get an overhead view or some other view to kind of get some of that stuff to I guess reveal itself, why wouldn't you do it? And what's exciting about this is it's also going to be, if you've seen some of the videos on these clips today, the quality is higher. We can do the maximum performance of up to 1080p at 240 frames per second, which is twice as fast as what we record now. The camera we have now is still, that wired camera is going to be solid, and it's good to have that solid wired connection. You can even stack these phones on top of that camera. And then of course get, local and cloud storage for the videos. So I'll show you here on the next page. This is very similar to what we saw before. But if we hit play now, you'll see 4 swings, and my colleague Dom is hitting in the cage right now in real time in this moment there. So now you see his last hit, 91.8 miles an hour. And you saw within about half a second, all 4 of those videos start to play, and they're all automatically synced up. So you don't need to scrub the video to get them synced up. They're all automatically synced. You can pause the video, you can move through and edit. You can illustrate on these just like we did. There's probably going to be some adjustments we'll make on this. This is still being finalized. There's probably going to be some cleaning up of the illustration tools and the scrub bar. And then again, here you'll see some thumbnails at the bottom. So you'll be able to eliminate a certain angle or zoom in on a specific angle and see all of these different perspectives to focus on whatever part you're looking at. You talked about your back hip, whatever that movement is, right? So now you can actually move to, I don't know, maybe it's camera angle A that's in the top left corner showing that movement. Does this look like something you would utilize?
Absolutely. So these cameras, I can move them anywhere, huh? Like I can basically put them at any different angle, looking at any different part. Like for me, like I would have a camera looking strictly at my back hip. Like I don't even care about the other swing. I just want to know that I'm getting to the hip correctly. Because for me, that's a big cue. Is like if I'm not getting my hip, then I'm bouncing off of it, flying forward. And another thing for me would be like, making sure my hands are getting tucked, but I'm also not stepping over the line. So I would have even a camera to make sure that my direction is clean. Because like that was a big thing for me this year as a hitter. Is like I was crossing so far over that I was rolling over anything that was middle in. I was rolling over anything that was away. I was flaring to the left. There was nothing that I could do about it because I couldn't really figure out. I always crossed over as a hitter, but never to a point where I was this year. And I was like, oh man, like having a camera just to kind of clean that up, be huge. And like that's what I go back to about like being able to customize your own training, your own routine is like I can customize my own camera setups now, like making sure I'm focusing on all my cues that I need to do as a hitter. So it's crazy, man. This is gonna be
and that speaks to like if people are familiar with our system, just for the coaches out there, that also what you kind of mentioned just speaks to our biomechanics mode, which it's a separate mode. I can show you next week with that, but yeah, it's something that will actually measure stride length and measure head movement and shoulder and hip sequencing and rotation. which has been very, very popular over the last year. Kurt mentioned that at the beginning, and we have reporting that we'll be showing off on that too at the ABCA convention. So yeah, no, I love that. And it really is, you're right. The videos can be moved to any perspective. They're wireless. If you look at the shot in the bottom right corner, you can see the iPhones on the tripods here. So you can move those around to whatever perspective you need. And really get fine tuned as far as what you're looking at or what you're focusing on. So, all right, that is our product announcement here, and that's it's still in beta testing. It's going to be on full display at the ABCA convention. We are targeting a Q1 release of this upcoming year. Kurt will give you the booth number again at the end here, but that's HitTrax Viewpoint. Come by the booth and you'll see that running pretty much all the time. And I want to show one more thing, and then maybe get a couple more questions out to you. If that's cool, Kolten. We got some pretty good questions here from folks coming in. So we talked about a product announcement, and then I almost kind of forgot that we released a new sensor. This is the HitTrax Gen 4 system that was released in September. You will also see this on display. That right there is the touchscreen PC and kiosk with the ground system. A little bit smaller, a little bit more lightweight, more portable, and it has some enhanced protection around it. I think a great part of this sensor too is that unit with the proper mounting can freely be moved from the ground to above home plate, which is the picture that you see on the right-hand side over there. You might have to look closely, but there's two of them with a couple TVs in the background. So this is our Gen 4 sensor. I wish I had a picture of the first one to show you the progression, but it's cool, it's sleek. So come to the booth. You will also see that on display. We should have both the overhead and the ground system for folks to check out. And that's the one we'll be setting up for you next week, is this one right here, that ground system there.
Yeah, I'm excited, man.
So, all right, I want to go through I appreciate you again taking the time. This has been awesome insight. There's been a bunch of questions come through. I know our staff at HitTrax has been trying to answer a lot of them via the chat. So hopefully folks that have questions related to HitTrax and things like that have been answered. Some other questions that have popped up here just in general. They're asking, first off, in your time with Seattle, the question is, did you use hitting analytics? I think was that your first introduction to hitting analytics? Because I know in Milwaukee there's a lot that goes into that too, as far as tech that they use. Was Seattle your first real introduction to the analytics of hitting, or did you have a kind of pre-notion going into that?
Yeah, I had a pre-notion going into that, but it never really dove deep in hit analytics until I went to Seattle. They were very analytical team, just like how they approach everything. From the pitching standpoint to defense, I mean, everything was, analytics. So just for me, that was a big change because I was always an old school hitter. So for me, like, learning analytics was kind of something I had to do to kind of survive and figure out my swing. And I never got a chance to figure it out, in Seattle. And that was what kind of, I think, made me a little more excited to, get into the analytics a little more, and that's where going to LA and them really being able to kind of sit me down and dumb it down for me to understand was huge. They were really good at understanding, how to make it work for you and how to personalize it for you. And that was the biggest thing that I took out of it.
So what is that? This is a question for me then. What does that change for you this off season? Does it feel like a different off season as opposed to one of the past 10 seasons, or is it kind of, a lot of the same, you're just integrating new tech? How does that change your perspective, going
Oh,
in?
no, it changed my off season big time. Just from a hitting standpoint, obviously I feel like I did a lot of fixings to my swing and cleaning up some things with my swing, when I made that move to LA, so from there, just kind of carrying what I did there and then using the HitTrax now to continue to go down the route of chasing the same swing every single time, the good swing, because we all want you to have a perfect swing, but that's not the case. So I want the good swing every single time, and when I have a bad one, I'll be able to break it down faster. I'm not going to get frustrated. You play this game long enough, you kind of expect yourself to be at a level, and like you push yourself to be at this level every single time. And having the ability to use this is going to keep me there without me, beating myself over it, thinking that I'm washed up. Or
Yeah, No, I mean, and like I said at the top of the hour, 260 career hitter. We know what you're bringing to the table, right? And it is really interesting to see that progression in that last month of August where, you batted 300. It was 30 days, albeit, but 300 right there to end the season. And sometimes it can take one thing. Like you said, you were looking for one game. That one game didn't happen. Maybe that one thing was in the cage.
Exactly, exactly. And I wasn't able to transition it out until I got to LA, until I was able to. I mean, the cool thing with LA, I was able to break down my swings from BP, like, and it was like I was taking my analytics that I was doing in the cage, going to BP, and then, I would bring an iPad with me out to BP and then bring that with me and then, try and like start using that. So I was understanding it to a whole nother level because of HitTrax. I was able to learn, why it's important to use this, why it's important to watch the video, because I'm able to use other video now, but realize the things that I'm looking for to make my swing successful. And I wouldn't have figured that out if I never used HitTrax.
And you've touched on some of this a little bit, but just, another question is have you seen a major difference from organization to organization? Because you've been with what, 4 clubs now: St. Louis, Milwaukee, Seattle, and LA, right? So have you seen a major transition or a major difference from what these organizations are providing or how they're communicating it to you? Or are there a lot more similarities than there are differences?
That's a tough question just because I feel like I was in each organization for different periods of time when the game was still changing. Like St. Louis, I was there from 13 to 20, so it was like it was still a very old school way of playing the game, small ball, doing the things the right way kind of thing. So you had to be, able to bunt all this. And then I went to Seattle, and that was where I started learning a little more about analytics, but it was still like small market team. Like, they had some stuff, but they didn't have, a lot of stuff. And then made the transition to Seattle, where Seattle they had everything, like they had all the HitTrax. They had, like you said, the big screens. They had the mounts above, and like all kinds of stuff. So, and then from there was making my transition to LA where they had all that stuff, but they also had more coaching. They had more guys there to kind of help you understand it and put it in a perspective for you to, be able to use it. Because when I was in Seattle, it almost felt like I knew what I was understanding, analytics side. I was understanding what I could get from it, but I didn't know how to do it. I didn't know how to like incorporate it in my swing. Where in LA, they were able to kind of show me how to incorporate it in my swing, how to incorporate it in my routines and my batting practice and stuff like that. So, things started becoming a little more, I would say this, like I wasn't emotional about batting practice or games. And I was able to kind of go back to my video and just figure out what was going wrong. So it wasn't like I was blaming myself. I was blaming the process and figuring out, okay, what part of my process was wrong. And that was all because of the fact that I was able to create this through HitTrax.
Well, I think that is a huge point too, is we can have all of the information in the world, right? And if you don't know what it means, it can only help you so far.
Exactly.
Learning this stuff is a huge part of it. And you can start as simple as you need to. Like you talked about at the beginning, I think you really started with your velo and your launch angle, right? Those are the 2 things you looked at. And then kind of as you progressed more into this, then you start taking a look at, point of impact, and you start taking a look at, strike zone, and maybe combining all these factors together. I would highly encourage coaches here as well too, to go back, look at our YouTube channel. There's a bunch of resources on there that will just give you some insight. And Kolten, honestly, I'd recommend it to you too, because you're going to start using the system a bunch, like on your own. There's a bunch of great resources and presentations we've done with MLB hitting coordinators, college coaches, previews of information, because you're totally right. All of this information is specific to a certain player. It's not a one size fits all. If you yourself are trying to hit the ball, let's say you see yourself hitting home runs at 30 degrees, and all of a sudden in the cage, you're trying to hit the ball at 30 degrees because you're like, well, that just seems like a good idea because that's the farthest hit ball. Now you come out on the field and you're starting to not see, those home runs turn into flyouts to left, right, center field. That's not a recipe for success, so you got to know your numbers. I completely think that's a huge piece of what you're talking about there, and something I would emphasize to players.
For sure. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, I think, there's a battle now with Ferris wheel and Wrangler swings and whatnot. And I think at the end of the day, like everybody has their own swing that's tailored to them. It's just about, like we said, understanding what numbers work for you, what angles work for you, and applying that. And once you can understand that, then you can tinker with it as you get stronger, as you get bigger. As you tend to add different things to your swing. But that's the biggest thing with HitTrax is it gives you the freedom to know what is a good starting point and figure out how you can add or subtract things to make yourself better.
Last question here for you that is pretty interesting. I'm also curious to know, did you do, I guess maybe this is last season, or coming up this year, or are you going to do a lot of bat speed training? Is that a part of your program?
Yep. That's a big part of my program. I've been doing it this year, and honestly, I'm going to try and continue to do it like during the season, maybe once a week, every Wednesday or something. I started seeing a lot of guys doing that, and I honestly, I mean, I tried to play at Mookie, and Mookie was doing that, and he's the one who kind of gave me the idea to do it during the season, and it's like you don't think of that because 162 games is a long time, that's a lot of games, taking a lot of swings, but he'll do his heavy bat routine, and then he'll minimize the swings he takes during BP or all these things, and so there's different ways to add it in, which I'm definitely going to start doing more of, because during the season you tend to lose bat speed just because you get tired. That's just part of it, but the more you can train and push through it, I think it's going to be huge.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I love it. Well, Kolten, I appreciate your time, man. This has been really, really useful information. Awesome to get your insight into how these tools are being used at the highest level. I'm really excited to to get you up and running yourself, there in Hawaii and help you this off season. Thank you again. I appreciate all your time and you stepping up to come and present to everybody.
Of course, man. Thank you guys for having me on. This was a blast, and I hope some of the coaches kind of got my experience from it. Honestly, like I said, I was a newbie to it, learned a lot through trials and tribulations this year in my career. So, if there's anybody to take it from, it's definitely from the guy who struggled. I struggled, and I was able to kind of figure it out towards the end, thanks to HitTrax. So that's why I'm a big fan of it. And that's why, I wanted to hop on board with you guys as much as I could, and excited to be able to get this partnership going.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you again. Thank you everybody for joining. Again, check out HitTrax Gen 4 system and Viewpoint. Kurt will give you the booth number, but we appreciate the time. And with that, I'll throw it back to you, Kurt.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Thanks, Kolten. Kolten, I'm sure I speak for everyone here listening in. We wish you the best of luck in 2024, wherever you land. We hope everybody enjoyed the webinar, learned a lot about some new features and a lot about how HitTrax can really take your players and your program to the next level. Again, if you're attending the convention, which is crazy, it's just 2 weeks away, be sure to stop by the HitTrax booth. They'll be in both booths 901 and 1007, which are front and center right when you enter the trade show. You can't miss them. They got a great display, and they'll be able to help you out and answer a ton of questions, everything that you need there. They'll also have an Expo Theater presentation Saturday the 6th at 10 a.m. So if you have some time, stop on by the Expo Theater, which is on the 3rd level of the convention center. Also, just on behalf of the ABCA, I want to say happy holidays to all of our valued members and their families. And if you are heading to Dallas, safe travels there. Thanks so much again for listening in tonight, and hope everybody has a great night.